reading. If you haven't, then you've come to the right place, as I'm going to share with you, ever so kindly, my top 7 tips and tricks. Hey guys, I hope you had a great day so far and that you're getting through plenty of university reading. If you aren't, then you've come to the right place, as I'm going to share with you my top 7 tips and tricks on how to get through your uni reading easily, so you can crush those reading lists in no time. Tip number 1, read with a purpose. I'm yet to come across anybody who's doing their university reading for pleasure. It's normally to back up a point in an essay, or to further your knowledge, or you get the point. Don't forget this when you're completing your reading. Start by looking at the title of your source and identifying which specific bit of information it is you're hoping to get from that particular source. Then look at the chapters if it's a book, or the headings if it's a paper, and so on, and see which sections of the paper or book will be relevant to finding that point that you want to find in that source, if this is making any sense here. Guys get confusing talking about papers and books at the same time, so I focus on one then the other. So to find this point in a paper, you should be able to do it by reading the title and then the abstract, the summary, the instruction, basically the first paragraph, whatever it's called on that particular paper. It should contain what the paper is either trying to find or the main points that it has found. This will give you the bones. You can then skim through the main body of the text at a much quicker speed than if you're reading word for word. And when I say skim read, I mean really getting through it quickly, just scanning for trigger words where you slow it down and look to add the meat onto those bones. This should allow you to get through the reading a lot quicker than you otherwise would have been able to. Something I have found, that may just be me, but it's that first paragraph is actually more useful than the last paragraph, the discussion or conclusion, or again, whatever it's called in that particular paper. Now that might just be me, but drop it down in the comments below if you feel any different. Moving back to applying this method to books, hopefully when you start reading a book, you have more idea of the point you're trying to find within it. How you apply this method to the book is you'd go through different chapters that are in it, basically only read the ones you think will relate to the point you're looking for. Simply skipping over the chapters you don't think are going to be applicable. It sounds silly, but it works, and it massively decreases the amount of reading you do, helping you to get through it quicker. It may be the case that after reading the title and the intro of the paper, or looking at the chapters of the book, that there's nothing actually that source will give you that you want. Then brilliant, you can simply move on to the next source and you've completed part of your university reading list. Skipping out parts of or whole texts is something that I've been reluctant to do for so long. But I've been thinking about it recently and it actually makes a lot of sense. Even if you're wrong and say omit a chapter that contains 1 or 2 useful points, you can use that time you would have allocated to reading the chapter. You can bolster and add weight to the arguments you're making in your essay in the same amount of allocated reading time. It's a win-win. Moving on to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is focused on increasing your reading speed, so you can get through text quicker and subsequently spend less time reading. This relies on science, but bear with me here, it's only very basic. Your eyes can't move in a straight line. As you can see here, I'm demonstrating, it's very hard. They sort of like jolt from side to side, unless they're following something. Now you see my eyes are moving a lot smoother. I don't know if this is being picked up on camera, very awkward if it isn't. So all you need to do is follow something when you're reading. A cursor or stylus if you're on a device, or a pen or ruler if you're, got a physical printout. Now, don't test me on the science of this, but as you're gliding over the paper more smoothly, you have to go back and reread less sections, which helps you to get through the reading quicker. This can also help you when you're skim reading, like I mentioned in my last point, as it can help you focus on task and actually get the reading done instead of just drifting off to space. But that might just be a me problem. Whilst I'm on the topic of zoning out, one thing I didn't want to include on this list was listening to audiobooks. Whenever I put these on, I just completely zone out and drift off and I don't get any of the information down. It might be different for you and it might be particularly useful, say, getting through your wider reading, but I found for me, it just doesn't work. That could just be another me problem, really. Anyway, tip number 3 is to factor your reading in as sprinting chunks and not a marathon. If I tell myself I'm gonna read 500 pages in a day, I'm just not gonna do it. I just won't have the motivation and I'll just end up procrastinating. I'm much better off doing lots of little chunks throughout the week than I am cramming it all in one big day. That works for me. Try it out, see if it works for you. A perfect example was this Friday. I had a lecture that ended at 1. I had a group meeting that started at 2:30 and I had to get lunch in between. So just taking like a leisurely lunch and sort of going into it. I had a much quicker lunch. I got a bunch of reading done, went and did my reading, got through some other work, actually working on this, and then did a bit more reading at the end of the day. And that, for me, I was a lot more effective, I was a lot more efficient than I would if I'd have just sat down for, say, 2 hours and tried to get through a whole bunch of reading in one go. Breaking tasks up like this helps me to keep focus. I like the variety, again, that just works for me. It allows me to, what I call sprint read and not just like drift off because I've got hours and hours to do. I just get it done, bang, on to the next thing. Obviously, there are some times I just need to sit down and complete a few hours of solid reading, but this prevents those few hours becoming a dozen hours, for instance. and I do read for those longer periods, my sixth tip is absolutely crucial. We'll get onto that shortly. On to tip number 4, and that is to break your reading up. It's important to know how much you have to get through in total, so you're not under-reading. It's probably not a word, but we're gonna roll with it. Anyway, it's important to see how much total reading you have to do in a week, and then splitting that up accordingly, roughly day by day, depending on which commitments you have when. I'll be providing more information on this soon, and when it is, there'll be a banner up here or here, I'm not sure, left or right, whichever one, giving you more detail. But put simply, list all the resources you need to do that week, split it up roughly day by day so you know how much you actually have to get through instead of just guessing where you are and doing too little or stressing and doing too much. Although, let's be honest, it's unlikely the latter scenario is going to happen, but it'd be nice to think it would. Tip number 5 might not be as useful now, but it will definitely be in the future, and that's to get through the reading early if possible. If you're a super keen bean and you can get all the reading for that week done beforehand, then that is absolutely amazing. I really recommend doing it or keeping up with it if you've already done it. I spoke about this before and it does absolute wonders. In the instances where I have done work beforehand, I actually end up spending less time on it, as when the lecture comes up, I know exactly what the lecture is on about and I can just move on to the next topic and get through some more work, instead of having to go back over this again and again to further my understanding. Plus, it can help me to contribute in the interactive sessions, which makes me seem a lot more intelligent than I actually am. Tip number 6. Now, this one is particularly pertinent when you're sitting down and doing long periods of reading, and that's to do everything you can to stay in the zone. Biggest factor here is your phone. Take it, I don't have mine, so I'm filming on it. Take it and put it out of sight, and also put it out of reach. So if you want to use it, you have to physically get up out of your seat and walk over to it, and if you turn around and glance, it's not there in your eye line. I don't know why this works, it just does. It can help you to stop going on your phone so you actually get through the work. Alongside this, I recommend setting up where you're going to work with drinks and snacks to, again, give you less reason to get up and move away. Further, I recommend setting yourself goals, be that a minimal amount of pages, such as 20, or a minimum amount of time, such as an hour, where you're going to just work and get through. This can help you to either get in the zone in the first place by forcing you to do it when you don't want to, or as you're starting to give up, you can work, okay, I'll just do this one more page. It can just help you to grind out that last extra bit of reading. Or it can put you in that zone when you originally really were not in the mood, at which point you'll then begin to flow and getting through much more work than you intended to do that day. My final tip, tip number 7, my lucky number, lucky tip hopefully, is to change your mindset. As I mentioned earlier, you're not expected to get through every single word of reading that you've been set. You physically cannot fit it all in, and it's daunting to think that you might have to. Break it down into more manageable objectives. Don't look at the reading you haven't done, look at the extra reading you have done. Even if that's only 5 sources over a year, that's 5 extra bonus marks that you can see right there, and it's worth more than just 1 mark. So I mean, 5 extra sources is what, 10, 20 marks easily? Split, process and conquer, people, come on. The other thing when it comes to mindset is it's a lot like fitness. The more reading you do, the more reading you're able to do. Don't beat yourself up for the reading you're not getting through. Commend yourself for what you have done. A bonus piece of advice for anybody who's stuck around this much, and thank you so much for doing so, is to not be afraid to change your reading up. You may have many modules, and unless you have a certain deadline coming up, you can mix and match which bit of reading you do that day, depending on how you're feeling. Even if you start off and you want to do 1 or 2 pages of one source, if you feel like you want to change, do something completely different, don't be afraid to. It's all contributing to getting you higher marks. And that's everything I have to share with you today. Thank you very much for your time and have a wonderful rest of your day.